Hello, listeners of the latest episode. Welcome to the new chapter of our story.
2 weeks after Rachel's funeral, John Martinez stood in the war room at 0200 hours and gave the order that would get 17 people killed. All teams, execute, execute, execute. The radio crackled with acknowledgments. Team Alpha, moving on the Pueblo supply depot. Team Bravo, approaching the Fort Carson research annex. Team Charlie, John's own team, advancing on Peterson Air Force Base communications hub. 3 teams, 3 targets, 52 fighters deployed across Colorado. The largest coordinated operation the resistance had attempted since the network war. Rachel's intelligence had made it possible. Her blood had paid for the locations, the layouts, the guard schedules. John had spent 2 weeks planning every detail, accounting for every variable, preparing for every contingency. David Chen stood beside him, monitoring communications from the 3 teams. Team Alpha reports they're at the perimeter. No contacts yet. Team Bravo in position. Michael's voice came through the radio, beginning infiltration of the research annex. Thermal scans show approximately 15 hostiles inside, plus unknown number of test subjects in containment. John's team was the smallest, just 8 people, including himself. Peterson Air Force Base was the priority target, the communications hub that coordinated all of Project Lazarus's operations across 6 states. Destroy it, and Webb's entire network would be fragmented, unable to coordinate responses or share intelligence. Team Charlie proceeding to breach point. John transmitted. Visual confirmation of target building. Minimal security presence. Looks quiet. Too quiet. His instincts whispered, but he pushed the concern aside. They'd done the reconnaissance, studied the satellite imagery Chen's engineers had managed to access, confirmed the communications equipment through signals intelligence. This was the target. Team Alpha is breaching now, Chen relayed. Entry team moving through. Wait, they're reporting the facility is empty. The supply depot has been stripped clean. No equipment, no supplies, nothing. John felt ice forming in his gut. Tell them to abort. Get out now. But he was too late. The sound of gunfire erupted over Team Alpha's frequency. Not the controlled fire of a tactical engagement, but the chaos of an ambush. Screaming, explosions, someone yelling, "It's a trap!" before their transmission cut off. Team Alpha is under heavy fire, Chen shouted. Multiple casualties. They're requesting immediate. Team Bravo's frequency exploded with noise. Michael's voice, tight with controlled panic. Contact. We've got modified infected. Repeat. Modified infected inside the facility. They were waiting for us. They're not wandering. They're positioned. They're responding to commands from handlers. John's mind raced, trying to process what was happening. All 3 teams under simultaneous attack. That wasn't coincidence, that was... "It's a trap," John said, the realization hitting like a physical blow. All of it. They knew we were coming. Someone warned Webb. Team Charlie reached their breach point. The communications hub looked exactly like the intelligence had described. A converted hangar with satellite dishes and antenna arrays. John's team placed their breaching charges, prepared to blow the doors and assault through. "Hold," John ordered, his tactical instincts screaming warnings. Something's wrong. This is too easy. They knew about Alpha and Bravo. They'll know about us too. John, we're committed, one of his team said. Alpha and Bravo are getting slaughtered out there. We complete this mission. We cripple their coordination. Maybe we give our people a chance. John looked at the building, thought about Rachel's intelligence, thought about 17 people dying for targets that turned out to be traps, thought about the impossible math of command, sacrifice some to potentially save others. Breach it, he ordered. The charges blew. Team Charlie poured through the opening, weapons ready. The interior of the hangar was exactly as described. Rows of communications equipment, computer servers, satellite uplinks, everything they'd come to destroy, and not a single guard, not a single person. Just equipment humming in the darkness. It's empty, John said, understanding flooding through him. It's a decoy. The real hub is somewhere else. This is... The explosion caught them before he could finish the warning. The hangar had been rigged with explosives, triggered by their breach or perhaps remotely by someone watching. The blast was massive, designed to collapse the entire structure. John felt himself thrown backward, felt the heat and pressure, felt debris raining down. Then nothing. John woke to Michael shaking him, shouting his name. His ears were ringing, his vision blurred. Blood ran down his face from a scalp wound. Around him, the hangar was a crater. The roof collapsed, fires burning in the wreckage. "John, we have to move. The whole place is coming down." John staggered to his feet, Michael supporting him. The team. 6 survived, Michael said, pulling John toward the exit. 2 didn't make it out. Come on. They extracted from Peterson Air Force Base, under fire, the perimeter guards having been real even if the communications hub was fake. Made it back to their vehicle and drove hard for Denver, listening to the disaster unfolding over the radio. Team Alpha had been decimated. 4 dead in the initial ambush, 3 more killed trying to extract. 5 survivors, all wounded. Team Bravo had fought their way out of the research annex, but the cost was devastating. 7 dead, 3 captured by Webb's forces. Michael and 4 others had escaped, all with wounds from fighting, modified infected at close quarters. And Team Charlie, 2 dead in the explosion. 6 survivors, including John, all injured. 17 casualties total, nearly a third of their combat-effective force, and they'd accomplished nothing. The supply depot was already empty. The research annex had been a trap designed to capture or kill. The communications hub was fake. Someone had warned Webb, given him enough time to evacuate assets, position ambushes, and turn their coordinated strike into a massacre. The community was in chaos when John's team returned. Dr. Morrison and his medical staff were overwhelmed, treating wounded from all 3 teams. The infection risk was severe. 7 people had been wounded, fighting, modified, infected. The new strain potentially in their bloodstreams. John went straight to the war room, ignoring his own injuries. Chen was already there, coordinating damage control, organizing security, trying to maintain order. 17 casualties, Chen said, without preamble, plus 3 captured. We've lost nearly a third of our effective fighters, and we gained nothing. Destroyed nothing. Every target was either empty or a trap. Someone told Webb, John said. Someone with access to our planning, They knew the targets, the timing, the team compositions. "I know," Chen said grimly. "I've been going through the personnel who had access to operational planning. It's a short list. You, me, Michael, and 6 others who were in the briefing sessions. Plus anyone they might have told," John added. "Operational security is only as good as the weakest link. Someone talked, deliberately or accidentally." Michael appeared in the doorway, his arm bandaged, blood soaked through his tactical vest. His expression was cold, angry in a way John had never seen before. "We need to talk," Michael said, "privately." Chen left. Michael closed the door. "Team Bravo was pinned down," Michael said, his voice tight with controlled rage. "We called for extraction. We were 15 minutes from being overrun. You were 12 minutes away. You could have aborted your mission and saved us." "I didn't know the communications hub was fake," John said. "But you knew we were dying," Michael shot back. "You knew we were outnumbered and surrounded and calling for help. And you chose the mission over your people, just like Kandahar." The words hit harder than the explosion had. John had been waiting for this, had known Michael would make the connection. "I made a tactical decision," John started. "You made the wrong decision," Michael interrupted. 7 people died because you prioritized a fake target over real lives. Rachel died for that intelligence, and you let 7 more people die because you couldn't accept that we'd been betrayed. If the communications hub had been real, it wasn't," Michael said flatly. "You gambled their lives on faulty intelligence. You lost, and now I have to tell 7 families that their loved ones died for nothing." He pulled off his vest, dropped it on the floor. "I'm done. Done following you into operations where you sacrifice people for objectives that don't exist. Done trusting your judgment when it gets people killed." "Michael—" "No," Michael said. "You want to lead? Fine, lead. But I'm not following anymore. Not after this." He left, leaving John alone with the weight of 17 deaths and Michael's accusation echoing in the silence. The funerals were held over 2 days, 17 graves on the hill next to Rachel's, each one a reminder of John's failure. The community attended, but the unity that had existed before was fracturing. Half blamed John for the operational disaster. Half blamed Chen for not implementing better security. Everyone agreed someone had betrayed them. John stood at the graves after everyone else had left, reading the names carved into wooden markers. 4 from Team Alpha, 7 from Team Bravo, 2 from Team Charlie, ages ranging from 19 to 47. All trusted him. All died because of that trust. Rachel's grave was nearby. John knelt between her marker and the 17 new ones. "I failed them," he said quietly. "Just like I failed you. Just like I failed my team at Kandahar. I keep making the same mistakes. Keep getting people killed." He thought about Michael's words, about the impossible choice he'd made, about prioritizing the mission over lives. It was what he'd been trained to do, what every military commander was expected to do when necessary. But maybe Michael was right. Maybe John had learned the wrong lessons. Maybe the mission didn't always come first. Or maybe the real lesson was that he shouldn't be leading at all. The investigation into the leak consumed the next week. Chen implemented strict security protocols. Compartmentalized information, need-to-know basis only, limited access to operational planning. It made coordination harder, but it was necessary. Michael refused to attend planning sessions. He still ran patrols, still trained new fighters, but he wouldn't work directly with John anymore. The rift between them was visible to everyone, adding to the community's instability. John reviewed every person who'd had access to operational intelligence, looked for suspicious behavior, unexplained absences, anything that might indicate betrayal. Found nothing concrete. Whoever the traitor was, they were careful. Chen had a different theory. What if there's no traitor? What if Webb has surveillance capabilities we don't know about? Drones, listening devices, hacked communications. Then we're compromised at a fundamental level, John said. Every word we speak, every plan we make, Webb hears. Which means we need to operate on the assumption that he's always listening. Use that against him. Feed false information through channels we know are compromised. It was sound strategy, but it required identifying which channels were compromised. And that meant more operations, more risk, more potential casualties. The modified infected who'd attacked Team Bravo presented another crisis. 7 people had been wounded fighting them. Dr. Morrison had treated the wounds immediately, but the modified strain was different from the original infection. Faster incubation, more aggressive progression. 3 of the 7 were showing symptoms by day 4, fever, disorientation, the beginning of physiological changes. Morrison quarantined them, tried every treatment he could think of. Nothing worked. On day 6, one of them turned. The transformation was rapid, from human to hybrid in less than 12 hours. They had to be put down before the infection spread. The other 2 followed within 24 hours. 4 more deaths. The toll from the failed operation rising to 21. John visited the modified infected in quarantine before they turned. Talked to them, apologized for sending them into a fight where every wound carried a death sentence. They were surprisingly calm, accepting of their fate. "It's not your fault," one said, a woman named Sarah Torres who'd been with Chen's original group. "We knew the risks, knew that fighting modified infected meant possible infection. We volunteered anyway." "I should have known it was a trap," John said. "Webb would have got us eventually," Sarah said. "At least this way we hurt him first. Got some of his people, destroyed some of his research. That counts for something." It didn't count for much when John had to put a bullet in her brain 4 hours later, after the transformation took her humanity and left only the monster. 2 weeks after the failed operation, the community had stabilized into a new normal. 64 survivors remaining. 21 dead from the triple strike disaster. Trust was scarce. Paranoia was high. And Michael still wouldn't speak to John beyond operational necessities. Chen had taken over most of the strategic planning, with John relegated to tactical training and security operations. It was probably for the best. Chen was better at coordination, better at managing people, better at maintaining the careful balance between security and functionality. John was just good at getting people killed. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Jennifer Santos, Dr. Santos's sister, who'd been part of Rachel's team, had been quietly investigating the leak using her background in signals intelligence. I've been analyzing communication patterns, she told John and Chen during a private briefing, looking for any transmissions that shouldn't exist, and I found something. She pulled up data on a salvaged laptop. 3 times in the past month, there have been brief radio transmissions from inside our perimeter, encrypted, directed toward Fort Carson on frequencies Webb's people use. They occur at irregular intervals, always when most people are asleep or distracted. Can you trace the source? Chen asked. Generally, yes. The signal strength and propagation patterns narrow it down to the northern section of our territory, but I can't pinpoint an exact location without better equipment. How many people have access to that area? John asked. Maybe 40, Chen said. It's where we have the secondary food storage and some of the living quarters for Chen's original group. The implication was clear. The traitor was likely someone from Colorado Springs, someone who'd been compromised by Webb's people, possibly during the attack that destroyed their original settlement. We set a trap, John said. Feed false operational information to people in that area. See who Webb responds to. When he positions forces based on the false intelligence, we'll know the information came from our leak. And if innocent people die because Webb acts on that false intelligence, Chen asked, then we make sure the false information doesn't put anyone in actual danger, John said. We create a target that looks valuable, but is actually worthless. When Webb moves to defend it, we know the leak is real, and we narrow down the source. It was risky. It required using their own people as unwitting bait, but it was the only way to identify the traitor without tearing the community apart with accusations and suspicion. Chen authorized the operation. They created a false intelligence report about a weapons cache at an abandoned National Guard armory. Made it look like they'd discovered a stockpile of military-grade equipment that could turn the tide of the war. Let the information circulate through the northern section of the community. Then they waited. 3 days later, Jennifer detected another encrypted transmission. The timing and frequency matched the pattern she'd identified. The information's been passed, she said. Now we see if Webb takes the bait. They sent a small reconnaissance team to the armory, just 3 people, with instructions to observe from a distance and report any unusual activity. If Webb thought the resistance was planning to recover the weapons cache, he'd position forces to intercept or ambush them. The team reported back within 6 hours. The armory is crawling with hostiles, at least 20 armed personnel, defensive positions established, surveillance equipment set up. They're waiting for someone to show up. The leak is confirmed, Chen said. Webb got our false intelligence and responded exactly as predicted. Now we identify who transmitted it. Jennifer had been monitoring the northern section continuously since the false intelligence was circulated. I've narrowed it down to 8 possible sources based on timing and location, all from the original Colorado Springs group. Chen's expression darkened. Start interrogating them carefully. We need a confession or hard evidence. Accusations alone will tear the community apart. The interrogations were conducted over 2 days. 7 of the 8 people had alibis or could prove they weren't near a radio during the transmission windows. The 8th refused to cooperate, demanded a lawyer like they were still living in a world with functioning legal systems. His name was David Park, no relation to the others who'd shared that surname. He'd been part of Chen's security team at Colorado Springs, had survived the attack that destroyed the settlement, and had integrated into the Denver community without any obvious problems. "I'm not answering questions without legal representation," Park said when John confronted him. "This is harassment. You have no evidence against me." "We have signal intelligence that puts you at the source of encrypted transmissions to Fort Carson," John said. "We have timing that matches information leaks to Webb. We have your refusal to provide an alibi or explanation." "Circumstantial," Park said. "You can't prove anything." John studied him. Park was calm, confident, showing none of the stress or fear that an innocent person would display when accused of betrayal. He'd been trained for this, trained to resist interrogation, to maintain operational security even under pressure. "Why?" John asked. "Why betray the community? We took you in, gave you shelter, trusted you." Park smiled. "You assume I'm the traitor. Maybe I'm just someone who understands their rights and refuses to be bullied by a guilt-ridden soldier playing leader." Michael was the one who broke the stalemate. He'd been watching the interrogation from outside, had seen Park's confident denials, had recognized the tells of someone who'd been trained in counter-interrogation. "I know you," Michael said, entering the room. "I couldn't place it before, but I remember now. You were at Fort Carson 6 months before the outbreak. You ran security for one of the research programs. You weren't National Guard. You were private military contractor." Park's expression flickered, just for a moment, but enough. "You worked for Webb," Michael continued. "Before the outbreak, during it, after it. You were part of Project Lazarus from the beginning. Colorado Springs wasn't your community. It was your cover. You infiltrated their settlement, waited for Webb to attack, then positioned yourself to survive and integrate into whatever group would take you in." "Prove it," Park said. "I don't have to," Michael said. "John makes the security decisions, and I think he's going to decide you're too much of a risk to keep around." Park's confidence finally cracked. "You can't just execute me. There are rules, procedures. You said this wasn't the military." "It's not," John said quietly. "But it's still war, and you're an enemy combatant who infiltrated our community and got 21 people killed. The rules you're talking about don't exist anymore." He stood up, gestured to the guards. "Lock him in isolation. We'll decide what to do with him after we've verified his background with any Colorado Springs survivors who might remember him." As Park was led away, still protesting, Chen entered the room. "We've got bigger problems," Chen said. "Jennifer intercepted another transmission, not from Park, from someone else. There might be 2 traitors, or Park might have been a false flag to distract us from the real leak." John felt exhaustion settling over him like a weight. Every answer just revealed more questions. Every problem solved uncovered 3 more. "Where did the transmission originate?" John asked. "Eastern section," Chen said. "Your original survivors. Someone who's been with you since before I arrived." The paranoia John had been trying to contain erupted. If there were traitors in both groups, if the leak went deeper than one contractor, then the community was compromised at its foundation. Every person became suspect. Every conversation potentially monitored. Every operation already known to Webb before it began. "We can't keep doing this," John said. "The investigation is destroying us faster than Webb could. We need to accept that we're compromised and adapt our tactics accordingly." "How?" Chen asked. "Every plan we make, Webb knows about. Every operation we attempt, he's waiting. We can't fight a war when the enemy reads our playbook." John thought about Rachel's intelligence, about the 12 facilities she'd died discovering, about Project Lazarus and the network of people coordinating to weaponize the infection. "Then we stop planning," John said. "Stop coordinating. We go back to basics. Small teams, independent operations, no communication between them. We hit targets of opportunity, adapt on the fly, give Webb nothing to intercept or predict." "That's not strategy," Chen said. "That's chaos." "Chaos is harder to predict than order," John said. "Webb's expecting us to plan, to coordinate, to operate like a military unit. We do the opposite. We become guerrillas. Hit and fade. No pattern, no predictability, no communications to intercept." It was a desperate plan. It meant abandoning the coordinated resistance they'd been building. Meant accepting that they couldn't trust each other enough to operate as a unified force. But it was the only option that didn't involve tearing the community apart with investigations and accusations. "I'll brief the team leaders," Chen said. "Small cell structure, independent operations, minimal communication. It goes against everything we've built. But you're right. We can't win a conventional war against an enemy who knows our every move." As Chen left, Michael approached. "I heard," Michael said. "Guerrilla tactics, no coordination, every team on their own." "You have a better idea?" John asked. "No," Michael admitted. "I just wanted to say I was wrong about the communications hub. You made the call with the information you had. The failure wasn't your decision. It was the leak. I should have seen that." 7 people still died, John said. "Yeah," Michael said, "but not because you chose wrong, because someone betrayed us. That's on them, not you." It was the closest thing to an apology John would get. He took it. "We need you," John said. "Need your tactical experience, your leadership. I can't do this alone, and neither can Chen. We need all 3 of us working together if we're going to survive Webb." Michael nodded slowly. "Together then, but no more secrets, no more compartmentalized operations. We share information, we make decisions collectively, we accept the risk of leaks because the alternative is worse." "Agreed," John said. They stood there in silence, 2 survivors of too many disasters, trying to build something from the wreckage of their failures. Outside, the community continued its daily routines. 64 people, holding on to civilization by their fingernails, surrounded by enemies both external and internal. The war with Project Lazarus had entered a new phase. No more coordinated strikes, no more conventional tactics, just survival, resistance, and the hope that chaos could defeat order. John thought about the 17 graves on the hill, about Rachel's sacrifice, about all the people who died trusting his leadership. He couldn't bring them back, couldn't undo his mistakes, but he could honor their deaths by continuing the fight, by adapting when conventional approaches failed, by being the leader they'd believed he could be, even if he wasn't sure he believed it himself. The traitor investigation would continue. The paranoia would remain. The community would struggle with trust and security, and the impossible balance between vigilance and unity. But they'd survived worse. They'd survived the network. They'd survived Denver General. They'd survived Rachel's death and the triple strike disaster. They'd survive this too, somehow.